All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name's Robert Farwell. I'm a financial advisor, certified financial planner with Edward Jones here in Tierra Santa. I don't know if you know the office there by the post office, the two-story building. That's where my office is located, right by industrial grind and all of that. So I'm happy to be here. I'm actually a Chula Vista born and raised person, went to Hilltop High School, San Diego State University. Boo-hoo, sorry. Oh, is that right? Okay, there you go. Anyway, so married with two adult daughters, 35 and 33. So a little bit about me. I've been with Edward Jones now for a little over 5.5 years. So I appreciate you all taking the time to visit with me today, and I hope you learn a little bit of something. Um, so the presentation we've got put together here for you is called The Four Pillars of the New Retirement. If you didn't grab one of these little folded things here on the way in, here you get one, but the report is actually accessible through that little QR code. So if you know how to use that, you can download the report itself. It's got some pens and also an evaluation form for you. So would love to learn from you how we do today. So that's me. So the point of this whole thing is we started working with an organization called AgeWave, and we did a study of about 9,000 people in both the US and Canada, from 5 different generations. And the whole purpose was for us to kind of learn from them what they feel about retirement. So our questions were pretty much focused on, retirement and how opinions about it are changing. Just show of hands, is everybody in here already retired? Yeah. Okay, just John and I, apparently. There you go. So I'd be curious to get your feedback on that. So we've certainly learned a lot in that 5-year period. We keep going back to some of those same periods or people to see how their opinions have changed over time. So the first and most important question that we asked people was, how would you define retirement? And 22% of our respondents said that essentially it's a time for rest and relaxation. Not so much here, apparently. About 15% said that it was basically a continuation of what life was and sort of the beginning of the end. But more importantly, and the most people here actually said that it was essentially a new chapter in life. Kind of get to reinvent yourself a little bit, right? So, basically, retirement brings now is freedom from things like work and family responsibilities. Not for everybody, apparently, right? But it's also freedom to do things, right? So that's a pretty important thing. Basically, things like increasing lifespans and new technologies is kind of giving us the opportunity to do things a little bit differently.
You know that San Diego, because question you didn't ask at a national survey, but there's actually a curse of retirement in San Diego.
A curse?
Yeah, you're so busy, you wonder how you ever had time to work.
I have heard that, actually. Yeah, it's true. Well, and we have so many things to do here in San Diego. That's the best part about it, right? So anyway, so the big takeaway from the research is that no matter what your next chapter looks like, there's actually 4 essential pillars that can impact the quality of life. And they're pretty simple. It's health, it's family, it's purpose, and of course, finance. In fact, our research found that those retirees who report a higher quality of life are twice as likely to grade themselves highly across all 4 of those different areas, which kind of makes sense, right? So while finance matters in retirement, maintaining your health, spending time with family, and having a larger purpose might actually be more important in that whole equation here. So, it says here, preparing for retirement. You guys have already done that. So preparing for retirement basically goes beyond the question of will there be enough money left to pay the bills, right? So let's talk about health. It's the first pillar. It says that 9 out of 10 adults age 50 and over define health as being able to do the things you want to do. Pretty important, right? And here's the thing I think is really interesting. Nearly all retirees surveyed, 96%, said that in order to live well in retirement, health is actually more important than wealth. Does that seem like a fair assessment? Right? But health and wealth are obviously inherently connected. People who tend to have financial resources can invest more in their health. And other people who are not so healthy tend to have a harder time to enjoy what money can buy. So talking about health, we also talk about physical and mental health because the two are obviously pretty well combined here. We looked at how people rated their health across the generations. On the left side of the graph here, you'll see that physical health clearly declines as we age. No surprise there, right? But for many, mental health actually tends to rise as we age, at least compared to the younger generations. So this increase in mental health is even further emphasized when we consider the effects of COVID. Now that's been 5 years, right? That we were first afflicted with that.
Robert, what's silent, Jen? Is that they're already dead?
I don't know about that.
No, seriously, what's silent, Jen?
The silent generation, that's the generation before the boomers. There you go. I don't know why they call it that. That's something we should Google here, I think. I thought it was too. We'll call it the silent generation.
Don't let it decline.
So we asked respondents if they had suffered mental health decline since the pandemic. And this chart pretty much speaks for itself. The older folks tend to actually handle it pretty well. And I think the reason for that is they've got life experiences that kind of let them understand that they've got the wherewithal to kind of work their way through things, right? So the younger folks are still struggling with some of that. So here's something I found interesting. And that is, I don't know if you know this, but Edward Jones for a number of years has actually contributed quite a bit to the Alzheimer's Association. I mean, I participate in a walk every year since I've joined the firm that we do every October. We'll be doing that up here at Liberty Station in October. But we asked retirees what illness, disease, or condition most concerned them. And since we asked these questions in the middle of the pandemic, we were pretty surprised to find out that it wasn't actually COVID. It turns out that most of us are far more concerned about losing our memories and our ability to think and relate with dignity than we are about things like COVID, stroke, or heart attack. So, this pretty much reveals what most retirees value the most, and it aligns with some of these things that we're going to be talking about shortly. So no matter what physical or mental health issue we have, people are living longer. They tend to spend an average about 10 years in poor health. So it's no surprise that adults' number one financial concern is going to be the rising cost of healthcare. For example, in the US in 2024, a healthy 65-year-old male with a life expectancy of 88 years is projected to need at least $281,000 in healthcare for the remainder of their life. Conversely, and of course this makes sense, a 65-year-old female in good health with a life expectancy of 90 years is projected to need $320,000. And of course, you all outlive us, weaker sex here, right? So, so you can see, obviously, the health pillar is very much linked to the finance pillar in retirement. And of course, people seem to grasp the whole notion that good health and quality of life are really connected. 93% of the retirees that we surveyed said it's never too late to improve your health. So, but it turns out, being humans, that knowing and doing are two different things. In our report, it says that only about half of retirees actually maintain a healthy diet, and only about half exercise regularly. So didn't mean to be a lecture, but So there's definitely an opportunity to build toward a stronger health pillar for your retirement, no matter how old you might be. So here are some things that folks can consider to try to improve their actual overall quality of life. And that, of course, is getting enough sleep, maintaining a healthy diet, exercising, challenging yourself, and practicing a mindfulness activity like meditation and things like that.
Robert, one of our remote participants, Rhoda, chimed in and gave us a definition of the silent generation.
Oh, good. What's that?
People who were born between 1928 and 1946.
Wow.
Thank you, Rhoda.
Thank you for that. So now let's talk about family, the third pillar. So when we talk to our respondents, we ask people how they define family. Only 1/3 said family was defined as relatives, which I think is pretty interesting. So the other 2/3 said that family is basically, those are the people I love and care for that are here. Exactly. Yep, absolutely. So it could be somebody like an honorary aunt or an uncle, right? It could be a close family relationship that has earned that term of endearment, or maybe it's a cherished caregiver for another family member. And I know we've all run into that before, right? So while this broader definition actually is driven by younger people, it's embraced by those who near or in retirement as well. About 60% of those 55 and older define family as people I love and care for. So family, however you define it, it's definitely a significant pillar in this new retirement. Linda Fried, who is quoted here, is a nationally recognized leader in the field of geriatrics and has done volumes of research on frailty and healthy aging. And she reinforces the importance of family in this way. Positive, meaningful, and supportive relationships with family and friends are critical to the quality of life and health in retirement. In our research, the retirees consistently say that family is their greatest source of satisfaction, support, joy, and even purpose. Spending time with family, often grandchildren in particular, is always high on the retirement agenda. Most of the retiree surveys will rally in support of family members, no matter the cost. 7 out of 10 actually said that they are willing to offer financial support to a family member, even if it could jeopardize their own future. I think we all know people like that, right? During the pandemic, it turns out that 24 million parents reported that they provided financial support to their adult children. No surprise, right? Unfortunately, many don't actually anticipate how those particular family commitments will eventually impact their own lives and finances, in retirement. They often need some guidance and advice to recognize the boundaries of what they can contribute personally and financially to supporting or caring for loved ones. So our retirees are eager to help others. They themselves do not want to become a burden to their own families. So obviously that could happen for a number of reasons: outliving their savings, expecting Social Security to pay more than it does, and hopefully that continues, right? Or from unexpected medical expenses. If you remember what we talked back in the health pillar, healthcare costs are the biggest thing that most retirees and pre-retirees are concerned about. So if there is a silver lining to the COVID pandemic, it's this: 67% of Americans said that the pandemic actually brought their families closer together. And again, thanks to things like Zoom, we're actually able to get together a little bit more frequently, even through social distancing and quarantines and all that stuff. So we seem to find ways to actually see and spend time with those that we actually care about. And another bright spot, the pandemic actually prompted millions of people to have that really important discussion about end of life conversations, right? discussions that, ultimately can make a difference in whether or not your actual wishes are taken care of properly in the end. So let's talk about purpose. And I don't think you all are surprised by this, but after retirement, retirees are often surprised to find out how much free time they have, right? And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense, because if you were working, you spent 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for 20, 30, 40 years, right? I mean, if you add all that up by a 20-year retirement, that's almost 40,000 hours worth of free time that you're trying to fill here. It sounds like most of you are having no trouble with that at all, right? Which is fantastic. So most people we talked to in the study was, they might have a trip or two planned in retirement, but after that, they were kind of at a loss for what it is they wanted to do in retirement. So basically, rather than just mindlessly filling the time, retirees will experience a better quality of life if they find something that has meaning for them, something with purpose. So when we asked retirees where they found their greatest sense of purpose, that was spending time with loved ones. That was the answer that rose to the top. Time with loved ones doesn't diminish the other sources of finding purpose, things like being true to yourself, doing interesting things, giving back, leading a faith-filled life. But family is still the number one thing. Quality time takes on an extra meaning, considering that when asked what they missed most about work, the number one answer was the people and the social stimulation, which totally makes sense. So it's interesting that being financially wealthy makes the list, but you'll notice it's at the bottom of the list here. So it's by far not the most important thing to a retiree. So having a sense of purpose can certainly fill the void that comes with isolation. According to our study, older adults who live alone spend an average of 10 hours a day alone. And after age 65, isolation is a greater risk for women because, of course, you all outlive us, right? And that is because, on average, as noted by the World Health Organization, women tend to outlive men, which would explain why there's a spike in the 75 plus age group from men versus women. So many retirees do struggle finding their sense of purpose in retirement, and maybe it's more or less a lack of opportunity or just not knowing where to look or even how to get started. So in the study, when we asked them about their activities and interests, some retirees find their purpose in volunteering, others in mentoring, and still others in taking courses or learning new things. If you think back to one of the earlier charts about mental health increasing as we age, having a sense of purpose is probably one of the reasons why, seniors tend to do better. All right, last one, finances. So when we ask people, what does your money do for you? How do you define the value of money? What they said overwhelmingly was that money provides security, essentially, right? And freedom. Freedom to, not just freedom from. So that sense of freedom can be boundless. There's freedom from obligations, from worry, and from nervousness about money. But also it's the freedom to do what they want, whether that's travel, starting a charity, spending more time with grandkids, or doing some work at the church. If you remember earlier, we said that being financially wealthy was only important to a few people. If you look at that tiny white segment here at the top, it says, allow me to buy or experience things. The overwhelming responses were related to this idea of money providing people freedom from and freedom to. So as a financial advisor, I actually get to work with people every day trying to help people actually meet their financial goals, help them create the freedom and security that they need to be comfortable in retirement. And it's one of the best things about my job. I love being able to work with people like that. So one of the things you'll learn is, unfortunately, after COVID, nearly 20 million people actually stopped contributing to their retirements. They were so afraid they actually tried to hold on to their funding and so forth, which is unfortunate. Pandemic and the related fluctuations in the market, while they negatively impacted many investors, driving uncertainty, confusion, and of course, fear. But 84% of those folks who worked with a financial advisor actually said that they felt a greater sense of comfort regarding their finances during the pandemic. And it's probably because, as an advisor, we tend to look at the bigger picture. We don't get quite so emotionally wrapped up in your money, of course. We know how to help you plan for the unexpected, things like emergency funds and so forth. And we tend to stay focused on your goals rather than sensational news stories. We try to avoid that as best we can. So as you think back on when you were considering your own retirement goals, what were some of those financial behaviors that correlate with a better quality of life? And which of these might you want to prioritize for yourself or maybe talk to your loved ones about? In this graph, the number one financial factor related to an excellent quality of life in retirement is carrying little or no debt. Totally makes sense, right? And other behaviors that contribute include being actively involved in the decision making about your money, having and sticking to a budget, working with an advisor, and then just educating yourself on financial topics in general. You tend to feel a little bit better about it if you understand it more, right? So we talked a lot today. Hopefully you've picked up some nuggets here. So I want to recap here. So there's 4 pillars to retirement these days: health, family, purpose, and finance. I think today's retirees certainly have more choices, more opportunities and freedoms than ever before. And I think the new retirement embraces those things. I think that's about it here. So there are 3 things that you can do to take control to help set the stage for continuing to live the life that you want to lead. First, understand that health, family, purpose, and finances are highly intertwined in shaping your overall quality of life. It's not that you can't have one without the other, but the most confident, content, and fulfilled retirees embrace all 4 areas and work to strengthen each in unison. Second, check your action or inaction gap within each of the pillars. Are there any gaping holes in any one of those? Or with a little reflection and work, can your actions be brought more in line with your aspirations? And then finally, don't go it alone. Sound financial advice is invaluable at any stage of life, but one can argue that the stakes are even higher in retirement. So I'm happy to take any questions. I appreciate the attention and all that. So thank you. Thank you. And I will say, I'll get you in a second. On that little folded flyer, there is a QR code. You download it. It actually has the full report, so you can dig deeper into that if you'd like. Yes, sir.
So the 20 million who stopped contributing to their retirement account in COVID, that seems a little counterintuitive to me. Why would they do that? And that 20 million is out of how many? How many working Americans, or how many Americans at that time were contributing?
Yeah, great question. I don't know the big number answer there, but I think the reason that they did that was frankly fear. They were probably worried about losing their jobs and probably stopped contributing because they didn't know where their next paycheck was going to come from.
Many of them did lose it.
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of them were told you couldn't come to work anymore. So, it's a big deal.
Very low from COVID.
Correct.
And increased unforeseen medical bills that could then devastate whatever they already had in savings.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think they just got fearful. And when you get fearful, you tend to try to gather your resources, right? And hold on to them as tight as you can. Anybody else?
But Donna Brooks just one.
I hope so. That's great. Well, good. Well, thank you all for your attention. I really do appreciate it and happy to answer any questions you have. There is an evaluation form. If you haven't grabbed it, please fill that out. I'd love your feedback. And then without any further ado, I'd love to turn it over to Jonathan. Thank you. You're welcome.
Hi, everyone. He did a great job, Robert. Our community is lucky to have him.
Need to see your presentation up there?
I see it. Are you able to make it into the? Perfect. Hi, everyone. As many of you know, my name is John Schwartz. I founded a company called Partner in Aging, which is an aging services company here in San Diego. I am so proud to be here to present on a variety of topics, including financial considerations while aging well. So,
Hang on a second. Now, let me get it shared with you. Hope you're gonna talk for a little bit there. You got it. Compared to the con.
great. So, I'll backtrack. I sit in the homes of families on a daily basis in their living room. And the fears I hear, just what Robert said, one of the top fears is dementia or losing our mind. Anecdotally, though, I know people are so terrified of outliving their money. I just sat in a living room this morning. This man he's about in his early 80s. He's worth well over $3 million. And he has no heirs, is deathly afraid of running out of money. Is it rational? Defer to the expert. Depends. Then I work with people who have far less than that, and they're ready to move into the Four Seasons for the rest of their life. And so I think meeting with a professional to discuss your finances is clearly so important. Today, I'm not going to talk about more the intricacies of where to invest in, but more so why this is important. Why our finances matter to aging well, which is what we all want to do. We're all living a lot longer today, and that trend will only continue, which longer life means, are we prepared financially to live that long? Our countries all over the world are struggling with this idea of should we be working into our 70s or 80s or even longer? I anticipate my generation, we talked about these different generations. I'm an older millennial. I think we're going to be working until we're 75, 80 plus years old. My hope is that we feel well enough to do that, certainly. What we all want to financially age well is independence. What is independence? Not needing support from a healthcare standpoint, having family. So today our presentation will look at practical ways on aging well at home and how do we reduce stress on our loved ones. I'm in the process right now of writing a book. How many of us have children? Almost everyone. What we don't want is to be a burden on our kids. I've got 3. I don't want to be a burden. I'm writing a book right now and I'm trying to preach to my parents how to not be a burden on us. And a big piece of that is planning our finances. But then another piece is how do we maintain our independence at home? And Robert mentioned a lot of this. One of the biggest tips, questions I get asked is, oh my God, John, what do I do? What's your one tip for aging well? And what I say is to exercise and to eat right. Because financially, it's a lot more comfortable and affordable if we're healthy. Some of that is way beyond out of our control, right? We get a bad back. We get diagnoses that are not our fault. It's just the way the world goes. But we do have a lot of control by eating well and exercising. And it's so disheartening to hear the statistic that Robert said, that half of retirees report, would you say, eating well? Half of retirees are reporting that they're exercising on a regular basis. That's not good enough. I know I've spoke to this audience about the blue zones. Are you familiar with those areas in the world that people are living longer and they eat well, they exercise, so staying mobile? You know, one of the biggest reasons that a senior goes to the hospital is what? A fall. A fall is the biggest reason why someone goes to the hospital. If we continue to move, that decreases our chance. Like I mentioned, eating well. But then another thing that can keep us from falling is having some home modifications in our house. Grab bars, toilet risers, small, not expensive interventions in our house can keep us independent, keep us healthy, and keep us out of spending a lot of money on things like caregivers. But if we do need a caregiver, I've spoke about technology before as well. Alexa, remind you to take your medications. Another big reason why people go to the hospital is medication errors. Technology with pill dispensers or Alexa as a reminder can really help us through that. I imagine everyone here drove themselves here today, but now with Uber, if you know how to use that on your phone or Lyft, it's okay if you're no longer driving. You can still be connected to our community, but knowing how to use some of these technologies are so important. I know so many people, and I'm sure many here know, struggle getting to preventative care physician appointments because they don't drive anymore. And that's so sad. San Diego is trying. There's not a lot of great options if you're not driving and also don't know how to use Uber or it's too expensive. How do you get to some of these appointments? So easing the caregiving burden. Have any of you been a caregiver for an aging loved one? Start conversations early with families, right? That biggest challenge that I see is that families, they don't have these conversations, these difficult conversations. Where do you want to age? What does having a caregiver in your house look like? Are you financially prepared for this, right? I sit and have these conversations on a daily basis with more or less strangers, and now they've become my clients or friends. But then when it's time to talk to my parents who are in their mid-70s now, that's a hard conversation to have. And I'm a professional at this. I encourage you to talk to your loved ones about just your aging planning wishes. A lot of kids, a lot of people my age or older have no idea on their parents' finances and what they can and cannot afford. They have no idea what their wishes are, and that all helps with the planning and cost preservation. Another piece that, and I know this is a little out of order, but who's here familiar with, if someone has dementia, an adult daycare program? You've heard, yeah. Jewish Family Service is one of them. So if there's someone with dementia or Alzheimer's disease, okay, hiring a caregiver at 30 or 35 or 40 or more dollars per hour is really expensive. One cost mitigator for someone with dementia, but they're not ready or wanting or able to move into a memory care community, would be what's called an adult daycare center. And think of that like day camp, but for someone with dementia. They can go from roughly 9 in the morning all the way through 5 p.m. And the cost for something like that, I know I heard Jewish Family Service is one daycare center, is around $100 or so per day. which is so affordable considering that's 2 or 3 hours of a one-on-one caregiver at home. In these day centers, they provide, it's like a camp. They provide activities and food, and even some provide some care. If you're ever caring for someone with Alzheimer's dementia, they're not ready to move, feel free to let me know. I'm happy to point you to a couple day centers in the area. Another piece that we talk about caregiving, it can save on costs. There's 2 ways to go about hiring a caregiver. And I know I've mentioned this many times in this room. If someone needs a caregiver for a couple hours a day or more than that, you can call a home care agency, for which there are dozens of these different agencies or companies in town. The other way is you hire a private individual caregiver directly. You don't hire a company. The difference is when you hire a private individual, the cost tends to be about 25% less than through an agency. And so feel free to let me know if you ever need a caregiver, you know someone that does. I can help save dollars on that. So insurance is another piece. You got to know what your benefits include, right? A lot of people don't understand Medicare. A lot of our politicians don't understand Medicare. It's complicated. What's included, right? A lot of times I get questions of, oh, my mom, my dad, my loved one needs a caregiver, and they have got Medicare. And I hate being the bearer of bad news. Medicare does not cover. Will they one day? I don't know. I fear that Medicare is probably in the need to cut rather than to add services. My prediction, though, is that Medicare one day will provide more coverage to assisted living communities. That's my guess.
Send robots.
When they can send robots, and right. But they're going to have to. Medicare is going to have to cover more services just to meet that growing demand. But then we have Medicare Advantage, which is a supplemental plan. How many of you have a Medicare Advantage plan? About half the room. Wow. So are you aware of all the benefits that are included in these Medicare Advantage plans? Open enrollment comes up when does that start? Is that the end of the year? So if you, December-ish, right? Feel free to let me know if you want to explore other Medicare or supplemental plans. I'd be happy to introduce you to Medicare brokers. I'm sure myself or Robert
Jonathan,
know.
we have a supporting partner that's a Medicare specialist.
That's right. She's on the senior.
She just gave a presentation a couple weeks ago, and
Wonderful.
it was mind-boggling. I mean,
Of all that
I
Medicare
retained
covers.
it till I got home.
Right, right. And then I know some of you have long-term care insurance, right? Those are also confusing. What's covered? A lot of times long-term care insurance covers in-home care. It also covers subsidies to assisted living. If you have a long-term care policy, you've probably been paying it for many years or decades. Please, my recommendation is continue to pay those premiums because there could be a day that you really will take advantage of that. But only about 5 to 10% of our population has a long-term care policy. Let me know if you have any questions on your policy. Anyone here a veteran? Thank you for your service. The VA has benefits for people. However, they're not great at disclosing or helping their beneficiaries through that. So feel free if you want offline to ask me, and spouses often are included in those benefits as well. So you got to know your insurance. That's one piece that can really help save you money. I'm helping a family right now figure out the right nursing home. There's 100+ nursing homes in the county of San Diego. Let's say you fall and you hurt yourself and you need some recovery. Which nursing home is accepting of your insurance, right? And so just knowing which homes are compatible will save you time, stress, and money. Other key considerations would be advanced directives. I'm going to ask, how many of you have heard of an advanced directive? How many of you have filled one out before? Yeah. This is, again, a great, I imagine the people that are on this call are here today are planners. Unfortunately, a lot of folks that I speak to don't have an advanced directive filled out in their 70s, 80s, and beyond, or it's outdated. look at yours if you haven't looked at it for a while and make sure it's still compatible with what your wishes are. Many of you have heard about the hospital advocacy program that I offer. Hospitalizations can be cost escalation, right? A hospitalization can lead to needing more care, more support, which is expensive. Getting sent to the wrong nursing home or getting poor care in the hospital is expensive. That's why I am so passionate about this hospital advocacy program that we offer. So feel free to pick out a brochure if you're at all interested. There's community resources like senior centers, the Tierra Santa Village, faith-based programs. Happy to tap into these resources. All get grants from our government. And you might be surprised. There was a grant that home care agencies got several years ago, where if you were caring for a loved one that has dementia, your hourly rate with a couple of these approved agencies were more like $15 to $18 an hour versus the $40 an hour. So there are grants going on all the time. So feel free to, tap into resources like us, and I'm happy to point you in that direction. Something that we just learned about is senior fraud, scams. KPBS just had a report that in 2025 alone, $70 million have been lost from seniors due to scams and fraud. I was just sitting in the living room with someone that lost $3 million due to a scam. That the IRS called, it was not the IRS, called her and said, we've got all your information. You've got to be very secretive about this. Go and buy a bunch of gold because your financial assets are compromised. And then we're going to box your gold up and tape, meet us at the entrance of your home. We'll pack it up and put it in a safe storage for you. And she called the FBI and they said you were scammed. It's devastating. She learned these are professional people. Scams are becoming more and more sophisticated and devastating in the world of AI that we're living in. Be vigilant and be suspicious. My wife just got a text today saying that her Amazon order, she orders Amazon, it seems like every minute, is delayed or lost. Click this link and you'll be able to track your package. And she's on this text message with 20 other strangers that she doesn't know. And she clicked the link. Luckily, she didn't input any other information. She stopped from there. We'll see if, there was some type of virus when she clicked the link. But she's 36 years old. It can happen to any of us.
Too, where they have, with PayPal. Where I got one the other day where somebody they're withholding paying it, but it's like it was a $1,800 cell phone. Some fancy phone, and they wanted to charge my PayPal account. Well, that's great. I don't have one.
Right.
But, that's another one. I've had 2 or 3 of them. Oh, yeah.
So stay vigilant. We're talking about finances. That family I just met with, that's all she has. She was planning, of course, to leave money to kids and to care for her aging self. She's 70 something years old. She might live another 25 or 30 years. These frauds and these scams are becoming so sophisticated. This is a national crisis, truly. So just stay so careful. If someone is asking you for money or to buy gold, don't do it. Please defer to experts like Robert, right? For any concern. So,
Jonathan, on the topic of scams, there's a movie. This is kind of on topic. Jason Strahan, the martial arts, the beekeeper. And I don't know if anybody's seen it, and you gotta beat 'em up action movies. But essentially, he takes on the illegal scam industry, and it's just refreshing to watch them kick the crap out of the entire industry.
Good.
And we're working on getting the whole thing down. Yeah.
And with cryptocurrency now, we were just talking about this, it's becoming more and more. So the cost of care I get this question all the time. I mentioned if you hire a caregiver in your house in San Diego, it's really anywhere between $30 to $45 an hour, which really adds up. People ask me all the time, or they assume there's a myth. Aging at home is always less expensive than living in a assisted living community. And that's not always the case. If someone needs a lot of care, even at $30 an hour, you can start doing the math. That monthly cost really adds up. Even the nicest of the nice assisted living communities are more affordable than $30 an hour.
Never mind that, they actually hired someone to basically be, gonna be a live-in, caregiver. He'll be there, well, I don't know, 24 hours a day, I'm sure that they, he has no time off. But in other words, he's a full-time caregiver, for one of this couple. What on earth would that cost? I mean, that's a.
Yeah.
$100 an hour.
Who's interested in the live-in and how that works, a live-in caregiver? So there's a couple options. If someone goes through a home care agency, home care agencies have to have their caregivers go in 8-hour increments because they would have to pay overtime pay otherwise. So if you go through an agency and you need 24-hour care support, you're having 3 caregivers throughout the day, 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours. If you go through a private person, you can arrange, or I can help one arrange, a true live-in person that's on call 24 hours a day. The question would be, what does that cost, right? So I can help people find a live-in for something like $300, $400, maybe $500 a day, depending on how much care that person needs. I've seen some examples of, hey, all I really want or need is make sure I wake up okay and help me get to bed. But, if you're someone living in my house, and I get lonely sometimes, so maybe it would be nice to have a meal with. But feel free to go and work outside and do whatever you need. Just use my house as kind of a place for you to live. I've seen arrangements of, $50 a day all the way to, free rent in lieu of money. So there are organizations like Elder Help. Is anyone familiar with Elder Help? They have what's called a home sharing program. That's fantastic. It matches up home seekers, people seeking a home, with what's the other one? Home sharers. Home sharers versus home seekers. Yeah.
He actually has a room in their home.
Right.
That is, yeah, so it's actually, it's not like 8 hours a day, he's like a full-time.
Sure. And I can help people find that.
And my question was,
So I would say a range between $200 a day and $500 a day, depending on how much care that individual requires. We're helping someone right now that's a husband and wife. They both need full-time care. So that's more on like the $500 a day number, which is a lot. But if you were to hire a home care agency, that's more like $1,000 a day or more, having 3 caregivers come throughout the 24-hour period. Assisted living and memory care. How much do you think the average assisted living community costs in San Diego? Including food and care and utilities. What would you guess the average?
6 to 10.
Is it, yeah, that's about right. $6,000 to $10,000 a month for, I'd say, 400 to 500 square feet apartment, which is a lot, but it's a lot more affordable than having a 24-hour caregiver in your house. I'm a big advocate of senior living when the time is right. And so if anyone here wants to start their search well before they need it, which I recommend, feel free to let me know. Like I mentioned, planning ahead is choice, and do so not in a crisis. So what are my wishes for you is to stay as independent for as long as possible. I find that the people that ask for help, this is why, like what Robert mentioned, women live longer, is women are more likely to ask for some help, are more likely to plan ahead. Married men also live longer, so because they have women that help them with that. easing the caregiver burden on families by having those difficult conversations with families is so important. Like I say, plan now to reduce the stress later. And then aging well is about financial health and peace of mind. I think making that financial plan, making that aging plan, I've just seen it time and time and time again. It provides that peace of mind. And the value of peace of mind is, incalculable. So here's my information. Of course, feel free to call me anytime, and I just am honored to be here. Thank you. If anyone has any questions, I guess for both of us, feel free to let.
I just have a comment. Some years ago, my mom was probably in her early 80s and everything, and I was visiting home. And she's a highly intelligent woman, and so we were sitting. She was about far away you are at the table, and she was just pouring out, how bad she felt that she couldn't regain that back, and she didn't have that intelligence anymore. And I thought a minute, and I said, but look at all your friends, that you're more intelligent than them. So you might have gone down a notch, but so have they. You're still ahead of the game, for your age. And she was just, she went from being so depressed to just being like, Leslie, thank you. It just to have that response to give to somebody, that they're still working hard and doing well, but they just don't have all the stuff maybe that they had, when they were working and when they were younger and stuff.
Thank you for sharing. You're a good daughter. On that point, our country, our society, we've created longevity through medication, refrigeration, sanitation, right? In the last 150 years, our average life expectancy has increased 30 years. In the year 1900 in the United States, our average life expectancy was 47 years old. Today, it's about 77, 78. It's 30 years of extra life due to just improvements in antibiotics and refrigerating our meats and having cleaner streets. So we've created longevity for more people, but we've not identified a purpose to aging, is what you said. And so what is that purpose? I know Robert addressed that as well. Any other thoughts or questions?
Interesting. How do we get a hold of you? Is it on some of the stuff that you
I
guys sent out?
have some collateral over there.
Okay, so I've got that. I've got it.
Great. I've got my card and a few other brochures over there.
Okay, I'll take a look.
Great.
Because I'll remember it after I'm driving.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Is this your number right here?
That's our main office line.
I remind everybody that at the website, you go to our supporting partners page. Both of these guys are supporting partners. You can click on their section of the supporting partners page. It'll take you right to their website and anything you would possibly need in terms of contacting them.
Jonathan, what do you charge for your services?
It's a good question. So what do we charge for our services? So my background, I have a master's degree in gerontology. When I got into this, again, that's more or less a social work background, right? This is a business I created back in 2019. My heart, though, is to try and help people. I've created a service to where I don't charge for my time or insight. We make money by helping people connect to caregivers. We make a little bit for that. So we charge, if you're ever looking for a caregiver, we charge a one-time fee of $300. If someone's looking for a retirement community, that's free. So we'll help you find a community. If we do, that community will pay our company a little small fee. For these living room visits, it's my pleasure to sit down with people and have a planning conversation, and there's no cost to that. You can call, email, text me at any time. It's all free. What's that? No, but we also have a few other services, but my purpose here is to help people.
Appreciate the forthrightness of your answer.
Of course.
Not all of your fellow financial professionals are so forthcoming.
Jonathan, Bruce and Sophia, this is their first time here, so.
Oh, wonderful.
Jonathan has talked, and many of us are working with currently in the hospital advocacy program, so we have a lot of confidence in this.
Thank you,
This is
Jay.
why they're asking.
Thank you. Welcome. You made the right choice in joining this village. Oh, you're not joining yet?
I just want you to know that I'm older than your parents.
Most of us are.
That's all.
We were talking about the increase in longevity. I was thinking that when Social Security was created, the lifespan, he retired at 65, the lifespan was only about 7 years.
Yeah.
Beyond that, now it's 30.
Yeah.
You look at places like France, I know have really struggled on their people are rioting. The country needs to raise the retirement age. No one in the country wants that.
Or they could also go back to work in August.
Right. That's also true. But we're gonna have the same challenges, right? Why is the retirement age still 65?
I would like to say something about what Robert said about the pillars of our aging. Your village has eating well, and we meet every other Friday, and we talk about good foods, the foods that are healthy for you, and we do research and we bring samples. So please come and learn about healthy eating for Robert's pillar,
Absolutely.
for his pillar.
Have any statistics or information on how long people tend to live after they move into an assisted living situation? There, years ago, the average wasn't very long. Just wondering if that's changed at all.
So that's a really good question. Did anyone hear that? Did everyone hear what the question was? Really important. What are some of the statistics around how long people live generally after they move into a senior living property, right? Here's what I can share. I've been doing this work now 20 years. When I first started working 20 years ago, the average age someone moved into a community was about 82 years old. Today, the average age of someone moving in is about 86. It's a big difference. People are aging at home for longer. However, they're living in these communities for fewer months and years. There is no question. I need to get data around this because I know it exists. So I don't have the exact statistics. Anecdotally, though, from what I've seen, people who move into an assisted living community or senior living property live far longer, happier, and healthier than those who live alone at home, especially when they become a prisoner in their own house. When driving becomes difficult, when managing the home becomes too challenging, when loneliness is abundant, moving is 9 out of 10 times the right decision. You know, there's data around loneliness. Isolation is as toxic to our health as smoking a pack of cigarettes every day. These interactions that people get in a retirement community where you walk by and you just see someone say, hello, how are you, is protective at the cellular level. And so it's not for everyone. I look at my parents individually. My dad will move. My mom will never move. It's a personality-based thing, but I can just share with you what I've seen. People that move tend to be happier, healthier in these communities versus home. Not for everyone, but most.
But if your dad goes first and your mom's alone, then she might be more
That
open.
That's exactly it. We say, my mom said, I'll never move, but if my dad passes first, you can never be stuck in your, right. Be flexible.
Can't. On home type of retirement, instead of moving into a nursing home, this elderly woman made arrangements with the cruise ship company. And she stays on the cruise ship the whole time. And when that cruise ship, they ultimately have to go in for various repairs, refurbishment. And when that happens, they arrange for her to go temporarily on another cruise ship. And so she spends her whole time, and she's getting, she's not getting a, nursing home, blah, tasteless meals. She's getting a choice of all kinds of meals, many of them gourmet meals that she wants. And so it's ended up being, she gets her laundry done. And she gets her laundry done. And
She gets to travel the world.
yes, she can see the world. And basically in a very, elite lifestyle versus being in a nursing home with cafeteria style food.
Right. Here's what we're seeing in terms of senior living is more communities are being designed for individuals' interests. So we have a community that's designed for people that play professional football. You can only get in if you play pro football. There's a community up in Los Angeles that's for retired actors and actresses. There are communities for people who like walking in nature, right? So we're going to see more and more retirement communities that are designed for people with specific interests. University of Florida, UC San Diego now has connections where if you live, you can live on campus and be retired and attend classes. So I'm excited for the future innovation to how people want to age. Feel free to call me, take my card, take Robert's card, call us anytime. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.